And you may have come here many times and know that my goal as a teacher is to try and bring those esoteric, exotic, sort of philosophical teachings down to earth so they can give us meaning in our life. And that's basically how I taught what enlightenment means to us. Not as some distant goal or some other attainment which we can wear on our hats and say, look at me, I'm enlightened, and how many enlightened people we've got in our group. Because things like that tend to just be another expression of one's ego and self, as if enlightenment is just like getting a PhD from a university, and you get it from the Buddhist Society of WA instead of the University of WA. And that's really not what these things are all about. So let's bring enlightenment down to earth. I gave a simile, one of those stories from my youth. Remember as when I was at university, I used to enjoy just spending my vacations in the quiet places of UK. So I used to just take a tent and a rucksack and just go hiking in the mountains of Scotland. I remember I used to camp out there by myself for days on end, meditating, just enjoying just being alone in nature. It was the nearest thing I could get to, like being in the bush. I even know that sometimes that people say, where did you grow up? And I often say I was actually grew up in the bush, Shepherd's Bush, the suburb of London, but it's still the bush, we used to call it. But the first opportunity, I'd always try and get away from that city, or the city of Cambridge where I was studying, and go up to Scotland where there's emptiness and space and freedom. I remember just one experience, just one day, just I was a young man, went with another fellow just to climb the nearest mountain, a wonderful time just trekking up to the top. And he decided to go back to, I think, the youth hostel where I was staying, but I saw another mountain. It was a beautiful day. So I decided to climb up that mountain as well by myself. But just as I got to the top, the clouds descended out of nowhere, and I was completely enshrouded in mist. Could not find my bearings at all. Even just looking at my hand at the end of its arm, I could not see it. The mist was so thick, and the surprising thing, it came so quickly. I realized just how dangerous those mountains can be. But, you know your directions, you know where you come from, so I just turned around and started walking back the way I came from. I was very fortunate because I'd only walked a few minutes. I was mindful enough to see that the mist actually did clear underneath me as I saw a vertical drop, a cliff going hundreds of meters down. If I'd have been a little bit unmindful, I would have been dead. But I saw that, and it scared me. Later on I found out that where that cliff was on the map, and I'd been walking in the completely opposite direction I thought I was going in. That's what happens in the mist. Sometimes you lose your directions, but the illusion is you really think you know where you're going, but you don't. It's just like life, isn't it? Sometimes we think we know where we're going. We think we're going in the direction of wisdom, peace, happiness, freedom. But then we end up just more enslaved, less happy, and just peace seems to be more distant from us. It's like walking through the mist. But fortunately I had enough sense to figure out a way to escape from that dangerous predicament. I realized that the mist always is high. So as long as I walk down, eventually I'll come below the mist and be able to find out where I was. And that's what I did. I just chose any direction which was downwards. Not worrying whether it was east, west, north or south, as long as it was downwards. And I could always do that. Always choose the downward path. And as I went down, 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 sure enough, after half an hour I came below the mist. And I could actually see where I was and get some landmarks and get back to the place where I was staying. And I used that story as a simile of as a way to enlightenment, the way to peace, to freedom, to happiness. Even though we can't see the final destination, because the mist enshrouds us, still we can see what is leading, in my case in the mountains, downwards to freedom.